was in the 3rd Army, 359th Regiment, 3rd Battalion of the 90th Division. I was in the I Company, the 3rd Platoon. We got shipped overseas right then, after 14 weeks. And hauled a whole bunch of us up to Scotland, I think it was. It was way up north. And then we went by train down through England. But then we crossed the English Channel on an LST. We slept on the steel floor on that ship overnight, and water dripping down on us. Then we get off that LST in France, at Bahar, France. Stepped over all the dead German bodies on the way through there, got on a truck, and then we went on an open truck. I don't know how many miles it was quite a few, because we went down to Three Virgins. That's a little town just outside of Metz, France. And that's actually where the war started for us. We started on the move. That first place where we landed, well, we just got off the truck and they stuck another guy from North Carolina by the name of McBride into that one into our squad. That made 5 of us, and we were off. We were in the battle. We went over a little hill, and I got through and got in the house, but the 2 right behind me got shot. Killed. Shot through the head. Must have been a good sniper. They evidently didn't even see me when I come in. I was the first one in there. The rest of them were behind me. They got mortar fire, and the mortars got loose. The Germans had mortars set up behind this little town, see? But there was a lot of them in this town. They just swarmed out of there. Then a tank destroyer pulled up right beside the building I was in, and he let go with a 76 millimeter. Then they really scattered. So we just went from there, and that tank destroyer was moving along with us all the time, you know. You just got to take a chance on it. Got to learn how to crawl on your stomach. And I'll tell you, when you got machine gun fire coming at you, you can learn darn quick. I had one guy beside me, he decided that he was going to crawl on his knees, and he got shot right through the behind. So when they said it's an EI, that's what they meant, an EI. The artillery, I was wondering there one night, we had artillery behind us, you know, what the heck's going on here? And here was our own artillery. I was the expert rifleman. There's only 3 expert riflemen out of a company of 200. The old Selk from Oklahoma and I, we'd go out on scouting at night, and of course every company had their own scouts, you know, see where the Germans were. We'd come back and report from where they were, then our artillery would shoot over our heads and over where the Germans were. We were the best sneaks in the Army. We never did get caught. Most of us wound up in the hospital. I don't know, we got some kind of a liver infection. Sent me back to a field hospital, and looked up at the door there, and who was standing there but old George Patton. He would look at me over, and had on his old English riding pants and his high boots. I think it was the 8th day I was in there, somewhere in the 7th, 8th day of that 2 weeks, and the war ended. It was declared over then. Actually, it was over before. And when I finally did go to the company, they were way down in the boondocks by Czechoslovakia, and still in Germany there, but we got down there. All we were doing was on guard duty, which is enough, because he had ammunition dumps all over, you know. Get that little Hitler Youth guys running around through the timber setting off bombs and everything else. Hitler got by with a, you know. We actually didn't know anything about the death camps until a couple of months before the war ended. And of course, that's what military government, a lot of it was, that's why it was too, what a lot of their duties, you know, after the war was helping out the survivors that came out of the death camps. Skin and bones. I run across the work camp. There was a bunch of women, and they had a bunch of cots and a great big wired out fence, you know, where they couldn't get out of there. I walked by that fence that day and I felt something crawling all over me. It was fleas, and just loaded. That's what they had to live in, and they were forced labor, making munitions and stuff for the Germans. Opened the gate on and let them out of there. So, well, the third Army broke up there right after the war, and everybody was dispersed. The married ones, they kind of went home right away, and of course I was only 19 years old then. Which Atlanta, a lot of them were. Then we was sent to, well, I was sent to military government. They were the ruling force after the war. See, the military government in Bavaria, that took care of that area, and then we got all our stuff loaded and got out of there and got to the German border. But the Russians had moved in. They were occupying the east half of Czechoslovakia, and we were on the west. They were supposed to move out on November 1st like we did, but they didn't. They moved in. Patton wanted to go in there and clean house on the Russians and get them out of there before we ended the war, which we should have done. We got back to Munich, and it was in headquarters there for a while. I can't even remember the dates now. But then it was in the motor pool, and they sent 2 trucks down to the headquarters in Berlin from Munich. So I was driving the lead truck, and I had some shaved-tailed lieutenant with me that was scared of his own shadow. And the other guy behind me, and there was him and a mechanic from the motor pool, and we set off for Berlin. We had to go through Russian territory for 100 miles to get into Berlin. They give them all that territory around Berlin, you know, to settle with the Russians. So, on the way in through Russian territory, convoy of Russian trucks came along and just pushed us right off the road. I had a pistol laying beside me, but I wasn't fool enough to. There must have been at least 20 vehicles there with a couple of guys in each truck. I'd have been a dead duck if I'd ever showed a gun. So we got to Berlin, and backed the trucks up to headquarters in Berlin and unloaded them. I don't know, some big cases or something. I spent 1 year and 10 months and 7 days in the Army. I was overseas 18 months. Never had a furlough. Of course, I didn't care. I didn't want to go home and then come back again.